supplies to last 2 extra days in orbit. I'm Tony Clark, CNN, reporting live.
Through the mirrors and the optical system, but as far as the telescope's ability to use that light, we're not quite there yet.
It will probably be 5 days before the early bugs are worked out and the first pictures are transmitted to Earth.
Those pictures are going to be a disappointment. Don't expect too much from them because the telescope will still be out of focus. We'll still have a lot of work to do. But I believe that if you came back and talked to us in about 5 or 6 weeks, we'd have some shots that would knock your socks off.
Many scientists believe that they'll be able to see pictures like this of the galaxies when the Hubble Space Telescope is fully operational. But they admit they don't really know for sure what they'll see. Galaxies,
Other universes, hopefully not just a blob of light on a fuzzy picture, but it'd be nice to see, you know, some recognizable star images.
The telescope's manufacturers have artists' versions of the pictures they hope the telescope will duplicate.
I think it's not going to be nearly that dramatic. Those pictures that you've seen are simulations of what some of these things would look like if they were as close as our sun were. So we're not going to see them in that kind of detail. And part of the excitement of this to me is that I really can't anticipate what that'll reveal to us. It's going to be a brand new excitement every time we click the shutter up there.
John Holloman, CNN, at the Goddard Space Flight Center, Greenbelt, Maryland.
Another shuttle story today. The crew of the next mission arrived at Florida's Cape Canaveral today. Their flight aboard Columbia is set for May 16th. Absent today was payload specialist Samuel Durrance. Apparently he is sick and he may have to be replaced.
Coming up, Mikhail Gorbachev pitches perestroika in a Soviet industrial center. The road to economic reform is getting rocky. Will his bid to win over workers work? And in our second half hour, a tale of 2 towns, one prosperous, one poor, both German. Comparisons and contrasts, part of The World Today.
The World Today is brought to you by Ford and by Hewlett-Packard Personal Computers.
You are about to witness the greatest astronomical event since Galileo. Soon, astronomers will be transported 14 billion light years to the very edge of the universe. For the first time, we will actually be able to see worlds we once could only imagine. Black holes, quasars, perhaps even other solar systems. NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. It came together at Lockheed.
Are you impressed that Ford's been the best-selling truck for 13 years? We're not.
Ford trucks, the best never ends.
We keep making our trucks better. Maybe that's why the sales gap is even wider. Because while we're busy keeping up with tomorrow, the competition is trying to keep up with us.
Ford trucks, the best never ends.
The best-built, best-selling American trucks are built Ford tough.
A Hodgepodge computer system?
Yes, Hodgepodge is the brand that we use here. Actually, it's a number of different products that work together.
Well, perhaps it's time to leave the Hodgepodge way and find a better way with the Hewlett-Packard Vectra PC.
Oh, that looks kind of neat.
Yeah, the graphics on here we think would be kind of appropriate for running a pizza business.
Yeah, I noticed the pie chart.
Yeah, see, some of your old PCs aren't working.
No, those are some of our employees. They look like PCs.
There is a better way. Hewlett-Packard. Buy Hewlett-Packard PCs and get a free HP printer.
The picnics, the football games, the birthday parties, and the quiet times. More people trust their lawns to us to make their world as beautiful as all outdoors. ChemLawn. We care, and it shows.
Tonight, it says super unleaded on the pump, but could it be regular lead-free? Are some gas stations selling low-octane gas at high-octane prices? On CNN's Prime News, 8 Eastern tonight.
The U.S. and the Soviet Union have agreed in principle to normalize trade relations for the first time in nearly half a century. U.S. negotiators say a full agreement still needs to be worked out, but should be finished by the time Presidents Bush and Gorbachev hold their summit in Washington next month. Under the agreement, the U.S. would grant the Soviets most favored nation trade status. The trade discussions were able to continue this week after President Bush decided not to impose sanctions on the Soviets for their crackdown in Lithuania.
In Moscow today, a Lithuanian has seriously burned himself. He set himself on fire to protest the Soviet crackdown on the republic. Inside Lithuania, where gas rationing is already in place, the parliament announced plans to ration food. Gorbachev blamed the crisis today on what he described as the adventurism of Lithuania's declaration of independence. He did so while touring a depressed industrial belt in the Ural Mountains. More on that from Doug James.
Sverdlovsk, the industrial capital of the Soviet Union, where smokestacks dominate the skyline, and the only work is factory work. These people are among the most productive in the country, yet they have little to show for all their efforts. Their standard of living is among the lowest.
President Gorbachev knows he must get the people of Sverdlovsk and other industrial centers on his side. Otherwise, his dream of an economic miracle could be doomed. It's not surprising, then, that the Daniel of economic reform has left his Kremlin office and gone directly to the Lion's Den.
The Lion's Den is the Uralmash Machine Works, one of the biggest factories in the Soviet Union. No sooner had Gorbachev arrived than he was surrounded by a large crowd of workers, their patience stretched thin. But he went on the offensive, reassuring them that price reforms would be implemented gradually and only after consulting the people. There will be no shock treatment, he said, echoing the advice of his own economic experts, who've now rejected the Polish example, in which austerity measures have been hard and sudden. At a town hall-style meeting inside the plant, Gorbachev launched one of his strongest attacks yet on opposition politicians, who he claims are trying to scuttle his economic reforms. He warned their efforts could backfire.
We must do everything to avoid confrontation and ultimately a civil war.
For the wives of the workers, that means something as basic as finding good, affordable food to put in their husbands' lunch buckets. Gorbachev told them that day would come, but it's likely to be at least another month before his economic advisors put the finishing touches on their reform package. And with shock treatment ruled out, many months more before the people of Sverdlovsk get the rewards they feel they deserve. Doug James, CNN, Moscow.
A senior United States arms negotiator, Edward Rowney, is resigning, but he is denying reports which say it's over his opposition to a treaty that some say could help Gorbachev. The treaty now under negotiation to reduce long-range nuclear missiles. The reports say Rowney is upset by what he considers the undue haste to complete the pact. But late today, he denied that when he spoke with CNN's World Affairs correspondent Ralph Begleiter. Rowney said he is leaving government only for personal reasons.
Today is the 4th anniversary of the world's worst nuclear power accident. 4 years ago, a reactor at the Soviets' nuclear plant in Chernobyl caught fire and exploded. Radioactive gases belched into the air, spread across parts of the Soviet Union, and eventually drifted around the world. Official reports say 31 people were killed. Unofficial reports put the number at 250. Soviets marked the anniversary today with a telethon, protests, and a strike at a major factory.
Still ahead, the latest battleground in the abortion debate. An Illinois legislator and abortion opponent holding onto office, claiming an election defeat was a fraud.
Jack Patton, publisher of Business Week.
I'm proud that so many leading companies advertise in our pages. American Express, AT&T, General Motors. Business Week ad pages read like a who's who of business. Why do so many successful companies choose our pages to tell their stories? Because they're trying to reach people like you. People who are successful themselves, or well on their way to being there. Just look at the numbers. You see, I'm just as proud of our readers, too, because they help make Business Week the world's #1 business magazine. America's most successful business people read Business Week because it's simply the best source for objective reporting and thoughtful analysis of the week's business news. From international trade to personal finance, they get the full story in our pages every week. And that brings me to your subscription to Business Week. Whether you've already arrived or on the way up, you should subscribe to Business Week right now. You will be in excellent company.
Now is the time to subscribe to Business Week, because right now you can get 32 issues of Business Week for the low basic rate of $24.95. a savings of more than 60% off the $2 cover price. It's all the business news you need every week, the kind of value real success is built on. And with your paid subscription, Business Week will send you the compact data bank absolutely free. The data bank is more than a calculator. It also stores all your important phone numbers and even serves as an electronic appointment book. And remember, it's free with your paid subscription to Business Week. Here's how to subscribe.
Subscribe today and get all the week's business news delivered to your home or office for only 78 cents an issue. Just call 1-800-356-9700 and we'll send you 32 issues of Business Week for only $24.95. This low basic rate saves you more than $39 off the cover price, and your satisfaction is guaranteed. The data bank is free with your paid subscription. That number again is 1-800-356-9700. Call now.
The count has begun again. Census workers are out in force across the nation to begin counting the millions of citizens who were not reached earlier or did not mail back their census forms. Counters will spend the next few months going door to door in phase 2 of the 1990 census. They are expected to visit up to 37 million homes.
Barbara Bush has unwittingly created a stir on the campus of Wellesley College in Massachusetts. As CNN's Pam Olson reports, it all started out with a friendly invitation.
The decision to invite the First Lady to address the commencement of this elite Eastern Women's College has created a controversy. 150 students signed a petition saying if Barbara Bush weren't married to the president,
we wouldn't have known of her. We wouldn't have heard of her.
Greeting the president of Venezuela at her husband's side. It is acts like these which make some of these students cringe. It's not that they don't like her, they say, but they question whether she is relevant to them.
My mother is of a different era, too. And I respect and I listen to her. And I wouldn't have her speaking at the commencement.
Novelist Alice Walker was the student's first choice, but she declined. The students say they want someone who has achieved recognition in her own name.
Sally Ride was on there, Sandra Day O'Connor, Benazir Mabuto.
Barbara Bush dropped out of Smith College to marry her sweetheart. She's never held a paying job or pursued a career. On the first family's income tax return, Mrs. Bush lists her occupation as housewife. And that's what irks 150 Wellesley students.
I think that what Wellesley tries to teach you is that, you know, you do something for yourself based on what you have done, and you're not, you know, grubbing off someone else.
The issue has attracted national attention.
So I hope this encourages her to speak out and to see that these young voices, they shouldn't be put down. They were really trying to say something to her. And I hope that she reaches out and says, I understand that you're going to live in a different world.
Boston Globe columnist Ellen Goodman, who has written about the petitioners, believes the women are anxious about their own futures.
They don't know if 10 years down the road, when they are also making their lives in concert with others, men in their lives, husbands, children, whether they will be able to do everything that they want to do.
The White House says Mrs. Bush is not offended by the controversy, and she believes she has a relevant message for these young women. After all, she's reared 5 college graduates. She speaks here June 1st. Pam Olson, CNN, Wellesley, Massachusetts.
Across the United States, politicians are finding out just how powerful a force a single issue can be, especially when that issue is abortion. State legislators in Illinois recently got such a lesson. CNN's Margaret Lowry reports.
If abortion is a political weather vane in Illinois, then one small state legislative district, long represented by an anti-abortion activist, may show which way the wind is blowing these days.
Our district has been polled as being approximately 70% pro-choice, and she is the leading anti-abortion spokesperson, so she's not accurately representing the views of the district.
She is Penny Pullen, a 7-term state representative that Rosemary Mulligan, a paralegal, took on in a recent Republican primary. Mulligan won by a narrow margin. 31 votes put her over the top, says the local Board of Elections, a count later certified by the state. But Penny Pullen won't accept defeat, and she's suing She wants $100,000 in punitive damages and legal costs.
The lawsuit correct the election results based on the Discovery recount, and by correcting them, to declare me the winner of the primary.
Pullen charges miscount and fraud, but she admits it was a tight race and blames that on crossover Democrats voting. Some voters here say it was self-defense.
Her representation is so very, very ultra-conservative that I feel very uncomfortable with her as my representative.
Reproductive rights is the issue, and people look at that issue before they look at party affiliation.
This is the turf at stake. Conservative Republican, a middle to upper middle class Chicago suburb of some 50,000 registered voters. But the issue is larger than this territory suggests. Anti-abortion candidates have taken a beating in recent elections across the nation. In Illinois, before losing the primary, Pullen had failed to get restrictive measures against abortion passed. Even conservative analysts now concede no significant anti-abortion legislation is likely next term. But Pullen supporters hope her demand for what amounts to a recount will help reverse their shifting fortunes.
Even if we win by inches, it may in fact halt that kind of gradual erosion, which I detect, and which, in fact, I would say now, I'm on the losing side in Illinois.
In the meantime, while the courts may ultimately have to determine the primary's victor, the national abortion rights movement can claim Mulligan's victory, no matter how fleeting, as their own. Margaret Lowry, CNN, Park Ridge, Illinois.
Testimony describing the confiscation of a box full of gold sent Imelda Marcus's blood pressure soaring dangerously high today, forcing a judge to call a break in her fraud and racketeering trial. She started sobbing when a customs agent described her arrival in Hawaii 4 years ago. A case packed with 50 pounds of gold was taken from her and her husband after they fled the Philippines. It was inscribed, "To my husband on our 24th anniversary." Marcus's lawyer said her blood pressure jumped to over 235. Her trial resumes tomorrow.
Still to come, the Stars and Stripes winning the America's Cup again in court.
We were 3 days out of Dakar.
I'm the Queen Elizabeth II.
I was right in the middle of an apricot flambe.
Captain, I'm afraid we've just run out of Colombian coffee.
Run out, Mr. Howard?
Full about, Mr. Roberts. Engine room, full speed.
So we turned back. Under the circumstances, it was the only civilized thing we could do.
100% Colombian coffee, the richest coffee in the world.
At Ford, we've anticipated the needs of a changing world by completely rethinking the way we make small cars, working to reduce our margin of error to zero. And in creating a new process, we created the new Ford Escort, designed and built to rival the best small cars in the world. Introducing the next Ford Escort, a new line of thought, a new line of cars.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
We'll open your eyes in April. It's National Cable Month. TV you've got to see. Look at who, where, when, how, why, what. Look at cable, because cable's now. Cable's cool. Cable's hot. Look at cable to entertain and inform you 24 hours a day. And during National Cable Month, look for a different cable network's quality cable program every night, featured in prime time. Pizza Hut is the exclusive sponsor of National Cable Month. TV you've got to see.
The winner of the 1988 America's Cup race off San Diego was finally decided today by New York's highest court. The Court of Appeals ruled that the catamaran from the San Diego Yacht Club, which clobbered New Zealand's huge yacht, was a legal entry, and the trophy will remain in the United States. The New York court had jurisdiction because the Cup's original deed of gift was signed in New York in 1887.
In sports, Nick Charles, Fred Hickman with some of those all too familiar quotes from players and coaches. Gentlemen?
Yes, we've heard it all before, Bernie. Thank you very much. And it is that time of year again, the time when NBA basketball players get the eyes as big as saucers, visions of titles dancing in their heads. Yes, it is the playoffs.
16 teams out there all trying to win the big prize, each with strengths and weaknesses, but amazingly similar in one way, Fred. Have you ever noticed how when the subject is winning, all athletes sound alike?
I think it'll be
go out and play our game and play hard, we'll be all right.
Only time will tell. We'll be prepared from day one, which will probably make us playoff tough.
It's going to be a totally different situation for us, and we have to be ready to play.
I think everybody knows what the job ahead needs to be done, and we're going out and get it done.
I think we'll be ready to play. And now it's really time to get down to work and see who is a better team.
We feel like we have a very good team. We're very confident, and we know what it takes to win.
We just got to get back to our heads in it, doing the things that we can do and do them well.
I think when Friday night comes, we're going to be, I think they're going to want to play. I think that's what it's about.
Hey, this is a basketball game. Play as hard as you can play and see what happens.
We got going with a very positive attitude, not too overconfident about the situation.
Sounds familiar, huh?
You think with all that money, Mike could get a decent hat to wear. Maybe we'll take care of that. Anyway, it is true. The superstars seem as though they have a book of these tried and true generic meanderings to recite at the behest of we media types. But even the non-household names have a good grip on the system. Listen to this.
It's always tough no matter who you are. Everything is bigger, and everything gets more intense.
And we've proven that we can play anybody in this league and beat them any place, any given time.
And we'll have to be at the top of our game to take them out.
That involves being mentally prepared for each game and going out and taking each game as they come.
We know what to do when the time comes. We have to be prepared every night.
Whether it was a big win the night before, or a real tough loss, that you put it behind you and you go back and get after it.
Well, it just goes to prove what I've long suspected. You have to give 110%.
Oh, that's right, Nick, because as you know, our backs are against the wall.
And Fred, you know as well as I know that you have to play them one game at a time.
Yeah, because it's a simple fact. There is no tomorrow.
But hey, it's not over until the fat lady sings.
Yeah, and she's tuning up. Or in the immortal words of Yogi Berra, it ain't over till it's over.
Well, it is. It might be.
Well, the check's in the mail, boys. Ahead in our second half hour, a killing in Colombia. We'll have details on the airborne assassination of a political candidate. Stay with us.
October 17th, 1989. A major earthquake rocks the San Francisco area.
You saw buildings that were just in ruins. You saw huge fires. You saw people just standing there going, what happened? It's hard not to react to something like that. It's hard not to look and say, my God, look at the force of nature here.
CNN's extensive reporting covered the earthquake's impact on the city and its people.
We watched people pouring out of the Marina District one after another with tears coming down their eyes, having lost their home but grateful to be alive. It was that kind of a story.
Next, The World Today continues, followed by Moneyline, here on CNN.
Is your next X-ray worth the risk? Could it harm you without you knowing it?
You really don't have anything to worry about.
There are probably people out there that don't know what they're doing.
So are the machines working properly? Do the technicians know what they're doing?
Anything that's either emitting or detecting radiation can be a dangerous tool in the hands of a poorly trained or unqualified operator.
Bob Goldberger reports in X-Rays, The Unseen Dangers on Channel 2 Eyewitness News Night Desk.
Know what's special about this car? It's the Southern Star. It means your Southern Quality Ford dealer has put his best price on it for the Southern Star sale. And here's another shining example you'll find.
$1,000 cash back or low 6.9% financing for 4 years. That's what you'll get on a new Taurus. Hey, make your best deal, then get $1,000 cash back or low 6.9 financing on a new Taurus.
But hurry, the Southern Star sale is shining only at your Southern Quality Ford dealer, and only for a limited time.
This is CNN, a network of Turner Broadcasting System.
In our Closer Look segment tonight, a tale of two villages forced apart by the Iron Curtain. Two German communities now getting reacquainted, finding one side used to prosperity, the other not. Here's CNN's Richard Blystone.
At last, the Iron Curtain is doing Walter Hartman some good. That's some prefab Jeep track from the security zone by the wall that was the most highly developed thing in Buckwitz, 100 yards from the Hartman place. Well, there was one advantage, he says, peace and quiet. Only your close relatives were allowed within 3 miles. Now it's a regular road rally between Buckwitz and Zickery, its twin village to the west, where the gardens and the people have that sleek, well-cared-for look that comes with making a habit of prosperity. While the Buckwitzers look pretty much the way they've always looked, the way both sides used to look once. There were two villages, Zickery and Buckwitz, but they shared one school, one dairy, one bakery, one life, until the wall came through and split them. It's all there in the scrapbook of Zickery's ex-mayor, Adolf Matisse. The rise, first of a wooden fence, and then the Cold War, embodied in steel and cement. Zickery in the foreground, Buckwitz in the back. To hear Walter Hartman tell it, before the wall, Zickery was just a suburb of Buckwitz. Dairy, carpenter, blacksmith, everything was over here, he says. But after the wall, Buckwitz became part of East Germany's expendable buffer zone, the wrong side of the tracks. The young people moved away, and progress passed it by. People moved out of Zickery, too, put off by being so close to a world they didn't know anymore. We never really understood the wall, says this man. And back in the Rhineland, they never understood what it was like living here. But understand or not, the West German government, aided by the Marshall Plan, pumped in money to the frontiers. And Zickery shared in West Germany's economic miracle. People who worked at the Volkswagen plant a few miles away found pleasant homes here. We made the best of it, says the ex-mayor. We couldn't allow ourselves to see the wall. If we'd gone there every day, we'd have gone crazy. Nowadays, Adolf Matisse is part of community life in Buckwitz, too, and enjoys the warmth that the slower pace seems to foster. Cheap food and gasoline attract visitors from the West. These ladies came over for both, but turned back when they couldn't get lead-free. The Buckwitz Tavern is thriving. People from Zickery like getting a meal for the price of a sausage back home, and like mixing with long-lost neighbors. Heidrun Lobach and her husband came home and bought the place to host a new era. They'd left Buckwitz because it was so dead. Now, she says, the young people are coming back. We have a whole bunch of new friends. It's nice here again. Freedom for Buckwitzers is the good selection at the grocery over in Zickery. The chance to just walk over there whenever they feel like it, and then walk home again. Freedom to travel is going to be the best thing, says Walter Hartman. But first, he's got to get the planting done. Richard Blystone, CNN, at the Iron Curtain in Buckwitz, East Germany.
West German opposition leader Oskar Lafontaine is hospitalized in satisfactory condition after being stabbed in the neck last night. Lafontaine was attacked by a knife-wielding woman at a campaign rally in Cologne. Despite his injuries, he plans to continue as the Social Democratic Party's standard-bearer against Chancellor Helmut Kohl. Authorities say the woman accused of attacking Lafontaine has a history of mental illness. They quote the suspect as saying she carried out the knifing because she wanted to get in the news. A Colombian presidential candidate was assassinated today while flying to a campaign appearance. The gunman who killed Carlos Pizarro was shot to death by the candidate's bodyguards. The so-called extraditables, the hit squad of the Medellin cartel, has claimed responsibility for the airborne assassination. Pizarro was once commander of the M19 guerrillas. That leftist group disbanded last month as part of a peace agreement with the government. Pizarro is the third candidate in Colombia's May 27th presidential elections to be assassinated.
Coming up, government investigators say a lot of us may be paying for premium, but really getting lower octane. And later, Jeannie Mose on a new study of how women are getting a lot more critical of men. The World Today continues.
You've been spending your lunch hour browsing the computer literacy bookstore?
That's correct.
Then you're obviously familiar with this machine here, the Hewlett-Packard Vectra PC.
Not at all.
You're not familiar with this?
Nope.
And you're a chip designer?
That's what I am.
And you've never even heard of the Hewlett-Packard line of PCs?
Well, I thought HP made other kinds of computers, but not PCs.
Huh. Are you sure you're a real engineer?
Yep.
I only see one pen in your pocket. You're not just impressed.
Get a free HP print.
GMC truck. A truck you can live with, a truck you can work with, a truck you can play with, a truck you can stay with. GMC truck.
The S-15 Jimmy has won acclaim from the toughest critics. Now, the new 1991 S-15 Jimmy continues the tradition. Top performance and bold new looks. Welcome to the 90s.
GMC truck. It's not just a truck anymore.
Now, let me get this straight. First, your insurance company comes to you with a safety discount for automatic seat belts. Then, they take off even more for those airbag things. And now, they're giving you something off for anti-lock brakes? Pete, if it isn't too much trouble, just who might that insurance company be?
ITT Hartford, committed to driving safety.
Tonight, the alleged victim of a string of sexually explicit phone calls implicates the president of a prestigious university.
Sex with adults and children, children and children.
Tonight on Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
When you say fill it up at the gas station, you may not be getting the gasoline you thought you were getting. Congressional investigators say American drivers are losing millions of dollars each year because of mislabeled gasoline. CNN's Don Knapp has more.
A motorist complained about the octane level of gas he bought in this East Oakland service station. The county sent an inspector.
Okay, I got a half-gallon sample, and I'll fill out the possession card, and I'll give you a copy of the report.
Besides county inspections like this, the state conducts random octane testing. But California is one of just 20 states that test gasoline octane. 30 other states do not. And that, says the General Accounting Office, is costing motorists millions.
In many states in this country, there is widespread octane cheating. The costs to the consumer are difficult to estimate, but could range from $150 million to $500 million a year that the public is paying for what they're not getting.
What this adds up to is a quiet but dangerous shell game for consumers. In order to get what they're willing to pay for, in order to protect their car in the manner which they have chosen, consumers have to guess under which shell they'll find the truth.
The GAO report says inspections in states without octane testing found improper octane readings in from 1/4 to 1/2 of the gasoline sample.
The study should serve as a wake-up call to car owners that those aging stickers out on the gas pumps are essentially meaningless and can't be trusted.
So what's in a few octane points anyway? Well, if your owner's manual says you have to have gasoline with an 87 octane, and you go to the service station, you buy 87 octane gasoline and you stick it into your gas tank, and you don't get 87, you've not only wasted your money, but you've run the risk of damaging your engine.
Octane mislabeling was most serious in Missouri and Michigan. In each of these two states, over half the samples tested were mislabeled. Samples were off by at least 2 octane points. In Detroit, motorists reacted with a mix of anger and indifference.
I suppose if they actually had some damage occur, I would be more concerned about it. Right now, I'm not too concerned.
That makes a big difference.
Why?
It's harder on the engine. They're designed to run on so much octane, if it's not there, it's not good for you.
It's misleading the public.
A possible solution lies down the road. A federal proposal to require octane testing in all states. Don Knapp, CNN, Oakland, California.
Authorities in Toronto blame equipment failure at a power station for a blackout last night. The city and surrounding areas were dark for several hours after a transformer exploded and caught fire. It was Toronto's hottest April 25th on record, 86 degrees, and thousands of people poured into downtown to stroll the sidewalks. No injuries were reported. Living and working in space may be a bit less unsettling someday thanks to some Air Force cadets. They've come up with a space truss, a way to keep large space structures stable in orbit. CNN's Jack Womack narrates today's science report.
Space Station Freedom, to be built in Earth orbit, will be so big that engineers worry about how to keep the structure stable and vibration-free. Research by cadets at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs could help. The space station, as conceived by NASA, consists mostly of long, open structures called trusses, with modules attached. The trusses act as a sort of semi-rigid skeleton.
As we go into space and worry about building space stations, our space stations are going to need to get larger and longer and therefore more flexible. And I'm concerned with the control of these flexible structures, such as trusses, that will be the primary makeup of our first-generation space stations.
Problems could arise if, for instance, a space shuttle docked a little too hard or a micrometeor hit the station. Well, that could cause the structure to flex or vibrate, perhaps enough to disrupt delicate observations or experiments. To explore the problems, Lee and his fellow cadets constructed two devices. One is called a planar truss and represents one side of a three-dimensional truss. The planar truss moves only back and forth. That simplifies the experiment. Only one motion needs to be controlled. When the truss moves, a computer orders air jets to fire in the opposite direction, slowing and eventually stopping it.
By exciting the structure, you can see in the oscilloscope that even after letting it goes for a long, long time. But if I were to go back, re-excite this, and then apply the bang-bang control theory, you can see that it dampens out right away.
Lee says the main problem with this type of control is that it requires propellant. On a space station, that must be brought up from Earth. The other experimental device, known as Mr. T, is a simple three-dimensional structure that can bend and flex in various ways. It uses another type of control device, the reaction mass. When Mr. T moves one way, its computer moves the attached mass the opposite way, damping the motion.
We can see it moving back and forth, and if you look closely, you can see that it's moving backwards when the structure is moving forward.
Full-scale structural space trusses can't be tested on Earth because they're designed for the weightless environment of space. Fisher says the Air Force plans to do its own structural tests in space, and Lee hopes his research as a cadet could earn him a chance to follow up in orbit. Jack Womack, CNN, reporting.
Science and Technology Today is brought to you by the people at AT&T. AT&T, the right choice.
Did you know that even though your 800 service is working perfectly, unexpected events can keep you from getting calls?
Hello?
But only AT&T automatically covers you with our 800 assurance policy. Within 1 hour, we can reroute 800 calls to any working phone, even at home, guaranteed. Reliability, another AT&T advantage. Call today about our special 800 offer.
Tonight, it says super unleaded on the pump, but could it be regular lead-free? Are some gas stations selling low-octane gas at high-octane prices? On CNN's Prime News, 8 Eastern tonight.
If I told you my pantyhose could go through an obstacle course like this without a snag, you'd say, no way. And I'd say, no nonsense.
No nonsense. The pantyhose that last.
Call now and you can have 13 weeks of the Wall Street Journal and this valuable 120-page guide to understanding money and markets. That's 13 weeks of the Journal for the news and ideas you need every business day. And this guide free, which tells you everything you want to know about money and markets, now for only $34. Call toll-free 800-638-9600. Today's Wall Street Journal. Faster, tougher, smarter. Call 800-638-9600 now.
Ryan White. His death from AIDS earlier this month touched a nation. His mother is trying to keep his memory alive. Today, she was on Capitol Hill lobbying lawmakers to provide $600 million to hard-hit states and cities to fight AIDS.
Everything we do for a cure for AIDS or to help AIDS from patients from now on will be a tribute to Ryan. He humanized the disease. He made people aware that it could happen to anybody.
She says her big regret, that Ryan is not here to lobby for the money himself since he was always so good at speaking from the heart.
A 5-year-old boy grabbed the steering wheel from his mother on a California freeway after he thought she died in the car. Police say the woman had passed out and was later arrested for drunken driving. The car was brought to safety by an off-duty firefighter who maneuvered his pickup truck in front of it. Inside, the boy was screaming, "My mommy's dead." The youngster was sent to a foster home after his mother was arrested. Singer Gloria Estefan is suing the driver of the truck that hit her tour bus on a mountain road in Pennsylvania last month. Estefan said the accident stopped her from performing and resulted in the loss of millions of dollars. The lead singer of the Miami Sound Machine is also suing the driver's employer and another truck driver who caused the singer's tour bus to slam on its brakes.
When the current census is finally tabulated, the figures are expected to show that Detroit's population has dwindled dramatically. CNN's Ed Garston has been following the so-called Motown slowdown, and in the second of 2 reports, he examines reasons for the decline.
The streets are crowded in downtown Detroit, crowded with people who take their lives home at night.
I live in the suburbs.
I like the suburbs.
I live in Royal Oak. Thousands more have turned their backs on Detroit for good. Motor City's population growth has been in reverse since 1950, when nearly 2 million people lived here. But in the last 40 years, nearly half that number have turned tail for other locations. And now, the city government fears when the new census figures come out, the Motown slowdown will show fewer than 1 million residents for the first time.
I think we're pretty close to bottoming out.
For several reasons. A lot of the economic base of the city is gone. There are not as many jobs as there were previously. There's been a serious downturn in the number of automobiles produced here.
In fact, America's big 3 car companies are not only setting up assembly lines in other states, but depending on Japanese automakers to produce cars for them. Plus, the share of the market for the big 3 has gone down dramatically in the last 5 years to about 60%.
This is 8 Mile Road, not just a main drag here, but a line between city and suburb. It's where Detroit ends, and in some ways where its problems begin.
Because this is the line thousands cross to go to work in the morning, then retreat north at night to resume their lives. To live below 8 Mile Road is to live amid the desolation of Detroit.
I really don't care for the city of Detroit. Violence and everything.
I'm not a great fan of the housing in this area. No resale value, no value, period. It's a bad place to live.
But the feeling isn't nearly unanimous. For those who do live in Detroit, the suburbs lack the vitality and variety only a city can provide.
Arts and theaters and that type of thing.
Most large cities have cultural advantages, educational advantages, and Detroit is one of them. I think Detroit is a very progressive city.
I just want to be around groovy people, and Detroit's the place when it comes to groovy people.
And if one knows where to look, neighborhoods like Palmer Park are an oasis in the urban desert. There are other grand old enclaves of wonderful older homes, clean and relatively crime-free. Even better, homes like these are outstanding values.
When you look at, to use our media again,
a house with 1,500 square feet that sells for, in Grosse Pointe, $150,000, in Brownstown for $90,000, and in Detroit for $32,000, people can get a lot better deal.
But the silver lining could become unraveled should Detroit's population dip below 1 million. The city could lose representation in Congress and in the state capitol. $500 million in federal and state funds could be lost, which could lead to layoffs of public employees, including police and firefighters. And of course, the prestige of being one of America's largest cities.
I'm calling from the U.S. Census Bureau, and I'm doing a follow-up call to see if she has received her census form.
Detroit may be cheating itself. Here at the census office, fewer than 60% of the citizens are returning the forms, and that means they aren't being counted. Even before the count is official, Detroit's 5-term mayor insists all this talk of going below 1 million is nonsense.
I don't know what's going on in this area.
But the numbers, the 12,000 or so abandoned buildings, the flight to the suburbs say otherwise. The only thing accelerating in the once mighty Motown is its decline. Ed Garston, CNN, Detroit.
The mayor of Washington, Marion Barry, could face more drug-related charges, including cocaine distribution. Sources familiar with the case say the new charges could be filed within 2 weeks. Barry said today he's leaving legal matters in the hands of God, his attorney, and the judge in the case. Barry was arrested in an FBI sting last January. Already, he faces cocaine possession and perjury charges.
Still to come on The World Today, Jeannie Mose asks,
"Do you think men are kind, gentle, and thoughtful?" No!
Spend a little time in Hidden Valley, and you'll discover that you can't rush the growing season. You can't cheat on freshness. And there's just no substitute for Hidden Valley Ranch. The dressing that brings your salad that Valley fresh taste. Hidden Valley Ranch. It's the original.
Every day, millions of people do something strange. They wash their dishes before they wash their dishes. Introducing the new Maytag Jet Clean dishwasher that scrubs with 47 powerful jets from the top, bottom, and sides, filters, and disposes. It's one dishwasher designed to do the dishes with little help from you.
Or me.
The new Jet Clean dishwasher from Maytag, the dependability people.
As a member of management here, you're to be congratulated for selecting Hewlett-Packard as your personal computer system.
I didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, someone in this company had the vision to realize Hewlett-Packard is a better way.
We have a lot of people around here that know what they're doing.
For management, you don't seem to know an awful lot about computers.
No, I don't.
Probably wouldn't have gotten to be management today like that, but...
Probably not.
No.
But here I am.
There is a better way. Hewlett-Packard. Buy Hewlett-Packard PCs and get a free HP printer.
I'll make dinner soon, Princess. Just let me rest.
The simple act of shopping for food used to leave this woman too tired to even eat. Who do you turn to when you're all alone? She got help through a volunteer shopping program for the elderly. They got help from the United Way. All because the United Way got help from you. The United Way. It brings out the best in all of us.
Updating our top stories. Freed hostage Robert Polhill set foot on American soil at Andrews Air Force Base just outside Washington today, but no meeting with President Bush is scheduled. White House sources say Mr. Bush fears that could jeopardize the release of other hostages. In Paris, United States and Soviet negotiators have agreed on a framework for a trade agreement that could eventually grant most favored nation trading status to the Soviet Union. It's expected to be completed by the Superpower Summit next month. And a second straight day of drama for the orbiting space telescope Hubble. After working for several hours, ground controllers correcting a potentially serious communications glitch. On board Discovery, crew members conducted experiments. They took photographs of the Earth from their record-high orbit.
Barbie, America's best-known high-fashion doll, is making a lifestyle change. She's been drafted. Mattel, the company that makes Barbie dolls, has already introduced an Army Barbie. And this summer, it plans to introduce an Air Force Barbie. Both come with authentic military uniforms. One warning, Don't run out to your local toy store looking for military Barbies. Right now,